Hello, everyone. My name is Alex Liu, and I'm a senior attending Christian Brothers High School in Sacramento, California. I'm excited to be presenting my literature review with you guys today. My Polygence mentors are Hamza Beg and Niam Moore, and I chose this topic because I just really love government, history, and politics. As a Taiwanese American myself, I wanted to better understand the workings of their politics to better understand their society. So, why does Taiwan matter? Why does this little island in the Pacific Ocean, to many people, have a stake in US policy? Well, there's three main reasons. For starters, the US has a national security interest in the Pacific, and as a democratic ally, Taiwan is geopolitically located in China's sphere of influence. So as China continues to encroach on Taiwan, militaristically especially, the US's personal stake in the country continues to grow. Also, Taiwan is the world leader in producing the most advanced semiconductors, estimated at producing around 92% of this industry. Most modern technologies, from the phones and computers that you're using to watch this presentation today to smart cars, use these chips to function. And so the US, on top of most of the world, finds Taiwan crucial to the people's modern lives. Finally, from a diplomatic and foreign policy perspective, the US needs to look at Taiwan's politics to continue to support democracies in the region. Understanding and working with Taiwan gives us vital context in how to work with other Asia-Pacific democracies, such as Japan and South Korea. So, entering my literature review, I came up with this thesis. The Taiwan People's Party, a third party in Taiwan's politics right now, cannot survive without their leader, Wen-je, for three main reasons. One, Ko is synonymous with the TPP as its founder. They are basically one entity together. Two, the TPP's popularity is strongly related to Ko as a person and not the TPP as a party. So most of the voters rally around Wen-je and not the TPP as a greater entity. And three, there's no obvious line of succession within the party. If Ko were to just magically disappear one day, there wouldn't be a second in command that matches his charisma and could also fit his place. To verify my thesis, I used a Google Scholar literature review supplemented with current events articles and analysis of recent elections. And for my results, I found that the TPP plays a critical role right now in Taiwan's political climate. They have the power to block and pass policy, and essentially without their votes in the legislature, no policies can be made by the government. The TPP has also not yet clearly defined where it stands on a lot of policies. So on the political spectrum, they're relatively volatile. We'll discuss what this means later on in my presentation. And also, the TPP, and by extension, Wen-je, its founder, probably will not survive, and this reaffirmed my thesis. However, if they can find another leader that can match his leadership and charisma right now, then the party might have a longer life within the actual political structure. And this is unlikely because Ko is the heart and soul of the party. That's also a general phenomenon with political founders. So let's go focus on a little bit of background just to understand what the main parties that we'll be talking about in this presentation are. So generally, Taiwan has two main parties within its political structure: the KMT, or Kuomintang, and DPP, or Democratic Progressive Party. And so Taiwan actually runs on a blue-green spectrum, with blue indicating the more conservative side and green indicating the more progressive side. So if we start by looking at the KMT, they're more of a center-right party. They favor increasing relations with China, whether that's economically, socially, and culturally. And they also are pro-business and free market, especially trade-friendly. They find their key support base in older generations and mainland Chinese descendants that currently live in Taiwan. By contrast, the DPP, or Democratic Progressive Party, has a center-left political position. So they have a more pro-independence rhetoric focused on economic independence, political independence, cultural independence from China. Additionally, they actually oppose the One China policy. Excuse me. Their ideology is focused on Taiwanese nationalism as well as a general policy of progressivism. And this is reflected in some of their economic policies. The DPP are strong proponents of social welfare as well as taxation reform, having like a progressive taxation system. And they find their key support base in younger voters. So where does Wen-je and the TPP fall into this general framework? Well, let's start by looking at Ko. Who is Ko? Ko was the blunt and charismatic Taipei mayor from 2014 to 2022. When he initially entered the bid for a mayorship, he branded himself as a green progressive candidate, but once he actually became the mayor, he ended up leaning more conservative in practice. For example, he established the Shanghai Taipei City Forum, which continues to exist today, and what it really has done is increase relations between the two cities. Additionally, Ko has continually espoused China-friendly rhetoric, such as describing the two countries as two sides of the Taiwan Strait and one family. This has made him lose a lot of support from the green DPP progressives, but he also didn't ever feel like he resonated strongly with the values of the blue conservative KMT. So in 2019, he established his own party, the Taiwan People's Party, because he felt no party could adequately fit his views. And so now what we see is that Wen-je's values are directly translated into the party that he founded. What are those values? Well, ultimately, it's centered around an anti-establishment stance. They're very dissatisfied with the current two-party system that exists in Taiwan's politics and are branded on being pragmatic and professional in this politics. They strive to bring a more disciplined and mature perspective to the government, especially valuing government transparency. They also favor domestic policy over foreign policy, a key distinction that they think differentiates them from the Kuomintang and the DPP. However, compared to other parties, this platform has been relatively vague and has yet to be clearly defined through actual policy changes. So now let's look at the elections, past elections especially. Where do third parties like the TPP generally fall within Taiwan's ballots? So let's look at the past presidential elections from 2012 to 2020. Let's start by looking at the bar graph on the left of each of the islands of Taiwan. From left to right, the parties are represented as the DPP, a third party, and the KMT. So as we can see, the third parties generally have no significant impact in the successes of the major parties. The president-elect always won the majority of the vote, and this is a phenomenon that even persists before 2012. So what was different about 2024? Well, if you look at the graph again, the TPP is now the third party in 2024. And they actually managed to steal votes from both major parties in a meaningful, significant way. And this is crucial, and I'll reiterate it. For the first time ever, a third party has been able to steal from both major parties, making a president not have a majority in Taiwan's government. In fact, he's the least popular presidential elect in Taiwanese democratic history. This is further reflected in the 2024 legislative elections that happened at the same time. Typically and historically, Taiwanese presidents have always won the majority of the seats in their legislature with their president. But this did not happen in 2024. If you look at the diagram on the right, the TPP actually won 8 seats in the legislative elections, which prevented both the KMT and the DPP from having a majority. What this means is that the TPP has the king-making votes in the legislature right now. So both major parties will have to work across the aisle or work in coalitions with the TPP in order to pass any effective policy. All this makes it sound like the TPP has it going really well. So what's wrong with this? Well, for starters, the TPP is a personality party. So none of the TPP's candidates actually won their direct elections. A quirk in the actual system of Taiwan's legislative elections allowed them to actually have seats. This shows that they are not as charismatic as Ko. Additionally, Ko right now cannot use his voice directly to influence policy. He has no direct political power because he lost the presidential election. He's only the chairman of his own party. Additionally, so basically, the party's power lies in eight legislators, and they may not completely execute the TPP's platform to Ko's wishes. Additionally, as a young party, the TPP still has vague and unclear values. All of these factors greatly weaken the party's success, suggesting that they may have a rocky future ahead of them. And that all ties back to this. The Taiwan People's Party probably cannot survive without their leader Ko Wen-je because Ko is synonymous with the TPP as its founder. The TPP's popularity is tied to Ko as a person, not the party, and there's no obvious line of succession within the TPP itself. Thank you for listening, and I'll now open it up to any questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. That was very interesting. I learned a lot. I'm curious if so your thesis that the TPP cannot survive without their leader.
Mhm.
I assume you came in with this, and so as you were doing research, did you kind of find anything that would disprove your thesis, or are you very strongly still supporting your thesis?
I think as it stands right now, based off of my research, my thesis ended up being reaffirmed. Now, that's not always the case with research, I know that, but based off of the fact that the party right now just doesn't have a clear platform, and also given current events, I didn't mention this in the presentation, but Ko Wen-je has actually been detained twice by the Taiwanese government on suspicion of corruption charges regarding his campaign and also his mayorship. So right now, he's being held incommunicado and is not there. There's currently not a chairman to run the TPP. So we've seen the party kind of weaken, but developments continue to occur regarding that.
Interesting. And so it sounds like, how much time do you think he has left in politics?
I think it really depends on how long he's being held incommunicado, because with that, he can't really use his voice to communicate to his supporters. And so if he isn't able to actually just be out there as the head of the party, as the head of just his organization, then the might falter, especially in support, and people might go back to the two main parties within the system. But if that changes, like if he's able to either get out of detainment or able to just use his voice again through in the system, then he should be able to get back and get the party back to its current support levels.
Gotcha. Very interesting. And final question, what did you think was the most interesting thing you discovered during your research process?
I think as an American, where we have a generally strong two-party system, it was just fascinating to see that some democracies, especially Taiwan, which is a really young democracy, just have different electoral systems. I didn't come in realizing that and knowing that. And so being able to look further in depth into what that exactly means and how third parties can impact just politics in other countries was really insightful. And it's also an area that I want to conduct further research into.